I still see some earbuds and headphones on. Go ahead and put those away for me. Okay, cell phones away. Okay, these are short and sweet, and then you'll be able to listen to music when we're done while you're doing the practice. But I need them put away for now. All right, so we are talking about the slope formula today. So the learning target says I can find the slope of a line or a needed point value using the slope formula. So this in the last lesson we talked about slope just in terms of is it positive or negative or zero or undefined. Okay, so now actually calculating the value of slope. Okay, we're going to use 2 points are going to be given to us, and we're going to label those points x1, that little subscript 1, comma, y1. And then we're going to label the second point x2, y2. And then once you have your points labeled, you're going to plug them into the formula. Okay, we said we use m to represent slope, so m equals, it's the change in y, so y2 minus y1, that's the vertical difference, okay, and then the change in x's, okay, x2 minus x1, that's the horizontal difference. Okay, so we plug into those to find slope, okay, m means slope. All right, if the x's are the same, let's think about this. If my two x values are the same, if I subtract, let's say they're 2, what's 2 minus 2? Okay, or if they're both 10, 10 minus 10, it doesn't matter. If they're the same, when you subtract, you're going to get 0. Okay, so if I have 0 in my denominator, okay, I don't know what the change in y is, okay, whatever number you get up here, but if you get a 0 on the bottom, can you divide by 0? This is what we talked about in the notes before when we said the undefined slope versus the 0 slope. If you don't know yet, that's okay. Let's think about the other way. What if the y's are the same? So if the y's are the same, your 0 would be on top, and you'd have some number, the change in x, on bottom. Okay, the difference in having a 0 in the numerator on top versus in the denominator, that means on bottom, okay? If I had a calculator, I could do 0 divided by a number, and it's going to tell me my answer is 0. Okay, so 0 divided by a number is 0. So if your y's are the same, your slope is 0. But if I try to put a number divided by 0 in my calculator, I'm going to get an error. Okay, it's not going to let me do that because that is not possible. Okay, remember, dividing is splitting into groups. Okay, you can't split something into 0 groups. So this one is undefined. You just turn in your notes packet to 2.2 and join us. All right, so if the x's are the same, it's undefined. If the y's are the same, it's 0. Okay, what that looks like if you were to graph it, this would be a vertical line. This would be a horizontal line. Okay, remember, horizontal is like this. Vertical is like this. Okay, so if it's vertical, it's undefined. If it's horizontal, it's a slope of 0. All right, so we're going to apply this. We're going to label the points as x1, y1, x2, y2, and calculate the slope. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep this color coded for us. So I'm going to say that this is x1 and y1, and that this is x2 and y2. And then I'm going to go plug into my formula. Formula has minuses in it, so go ahead and draw the fraction line and your minus signs, and then we're just going to plug these numbers in. So the top is y2 minus y1, so y1 goes here X1 goes here, Y2 goes here, X2 goes here. So it's the change in Y over the change in X. Okay, well, here we go. The Y's are the same. What did we say was going to happen when the Y's are the same? If you get a 0 on top, your slope is 0. Okay, and remember on bottom, it didn't really matter in this case because we got a 0. But when you have minus a negative, what does that turn into? Remember, minus a negative becomes a plus. It didn't matter because we were doing 0 divided by a number. It's always going to be 0. So it didn't matter if we misadded or subtracted down here, we still would have lucked out to get 0. Okay, but you need to be careful with that when it's not a 0 on top. Okay, so I don't have to change my, whoa, zoom way out. My pen color back and forth a bunch of times. I'm going to go ahead and do all my labeling. Oh, I don't know why I just did that. X1, Y1. I'll go ahead and label all my X1, Y1. And my X2, Y2. And again, I'm plugging into my formula. Setup's always going to be the same. All right. So the second term, the second point, the one that I wrote in red is going to be written first because remember this is the formula up here. Okay, we're going to do the change in Y over the change in X. So the Y2 over X2 goes first. Okay, and then the second point, the Y1 and the X1. So now I need to simplify. An order of operation says we do what's on top together, we do what's on bottom together, and then we divide at the end. Okay, so when I go to simplify this, we said that that minus a negative is going to do what? What's going to happen? What's that going to become? It's going to become plus. Because you have a negative times a negative, that's a positive. So what's 2 plus 6? Okay, and then on the bottom, -5 minus 7. So we're at -5 on the number line. You can visualize it in your head. And then you go -7 more. So you go to the left 7 more. So you're getting more negative. So that's -12. Now, if you can reduce your fraction, we like to reduce our fraction. So 8 and 12 are both those can both be divided by 4. So if I divided both of those by 4 to reduce this, this would become 2/3. Now you have a positive divided by a negative, so my slope is negative. So it's -2/3. Make sure you get your sign correct. So if I were to be graphing this or plotting these points, that means I would be counting down to right 3. If you want to add that up here as a reminder, slope is rise over run. So the change in your y's is the rise, and the change in the x's is your run. Okay, so now we're going to plug here. So my x1, the ones go over here, the twos go over here. So 8 and 4. It's 2 and 1. Okay, what's 8 minus 2? On top. 6. What's 4 minus 1? Bottom, that's 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that one has a positive 2 slope. All right, same strategy here. I'm going to plug in where everything goes. Now this time, what's the same? My x's are the same, right? And we said when your x's are the same, you get that 0 on bottom. You cannot do that. You cannot divide by 0. So my slope here is undefined. That means that this would graph as a vertical line. All right, now on these, instead of giving us the 2 points and asking for the slope, they're giving us the slope, one of the points, and asking us for a missing coordinate of the second point. Okay, so we're going to plug into the formula the same way, okay, but this time we know m. So our m equals, so slope equals, and then we're going to plug in everything that we know. So we're going to do the labeling, x1, y1, this is x2, y2. So that's going to go here and here. Remember, the formula has a minus in it. And then this is x1, y1. So we're going to try to calculate that missing piece in there. So on the top, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. Okay, so when I simplify there, I get a plus, which makes that 9. Okay, so I've got 1/5 equals, and then that's 9 over x minus 2. Now you have 2 ways to do this. I think probably the easiest for y'all is to cross multiply. Okay, so remember, think back when you cross multiply, because you have a fraction equal to a fraction. This is what the butterfly method or cross multiply. So we're going to do the 5 times the 9. And we're going to do the 1 times the x minus 2. Now 5 times 9 is 45. And then 1 doesn't change anything. Multiplying by 1 doesn't change it, so it's just x minus 2. So then I'm going to finish solving this for x by adding the 2 over. And I get that x must be 47. Okay, I'm going to try that one more time with this one. So I'm going to input my slope equals the change in y over the change in x, and I've got x2, y2 here. X1, y1 here. So when I go to simplify this, I'm going to have, and then, whoops, the negative for the 3/4, it can go on top or bottom. It does not matter if that negative is on top or bottom. So I'm just going to put it on top. And then -1 minus 3 is -4. Now we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do the -3 times -4. And then I'm going to do this 4 times y minus 4. Now this time I have to distribute in the parentheses. Over here, in this last problem, that 1 did not have to be distributed because it was just a 1. Here, I do have to distribute this 4. That becomes 4y minus 16. And then over here, -3 times -4 is positive 12. Now I'm going to finish solving by moving that constant 16 to the other side. You need to draw that line to separate. You can. So the 16s eliminate, and that leaves me with 28 equals 4y. And then I need to get rid of that 4. So I'm going to divide it out. And 28 divided by 4 is 7. Okay, so those are tougher, those bottom two, because it's working backward. You gotta remember your little cross multiply process there. Okay, but it's using the same formula as those above, but we're using slope formula today to practice finding slope or practice finding a missing point given the slope. Don't feel okay about those? I'll leave that up there a minute. I see some people still writing. Okay, let me double check our Pepperelli schedule here. Okay, yeah, so we've got just a couple minutes till lunch. So I'll go ahead and pass out the practice. And then when you come back from lunch, we'll mark which practice numbers we're doing. And then you'll have the rest of class to do the practice. So I'll go ahead and pass that out. Okay. So this one, let me put it on our canvas here. You can mark this when you get back from lunch. What numbers we're going to do for this one. All right, so those are the problem numbers here. And that is due by Friday as well.